All right. Welcome to the second episode of DC Decoded. We're here with Dennis Houston, who's a very good friend and who's been in the AI policy space for the past 4 years before ChatGPT even became a thing. And what are we going to cook today, Dennis?
Hünkâr, beğendi. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Okay.
How do we even translate that?
I don't know. It is an eggplant puree topped with ground beef, and it is one of the gems of Turkey. I remember when I was looking at like wedding venues in Istanbul, this was the special food that every venue was serving. It's like, it's absolutely delicious, and there's nothing else like it.
It's perfection. And Deniz is American Turkish, and so we shared that heritage. We wanted to make something special, something Turkish for you guys. She's a much better cook than I am, so she's going to be in charge of the entire cooking scene. She already started. She was like, girl, this is going to take so much more time than you think.
It's going to take a lot of time.
So she already started making it before I can even think about it.
The oven is not working, so we're doing it all on the stovetop, which is actually lovely because it gives us that extra charred flavor. So we have a wire rack on top of our gas grill. And yeah, we're just charring some eggplants. This one looks like it's close to being done, but we have another very big boy underneath here that we're trying not to drip as we prepare it.
Okay, perfect.
You know, what's really funny is I feel like everyone these days tries to like sound smart where they're talking about AI, which is what I do for most of my day job, but I care more about cooking. And I want to make sure that I'm like not messing any.
We're only humans in the end. We only need food, shelter, security. None of that AI.
And eggplant.
And eggplants, I swear. Okay, Dennis. So my first question to you is, you've spent quite some time researching and understanding the policy makers and how they approach AI, both in this part of the Atlantic and in Europe and potentially in the developing world as well. So what do you think is the fundamental difference in different countries are approaching AI?
So one thing that I've always appreciated when it comes to not just AI, but other technologies is that, you know, in the US, we have this big like culture of capitalism and entrepreneurship. And, you know, a lot of people that I've met, like some people are trying to solve problems. Other people want to build a thing, sell it, and then move on to the thing. Like there's a culture of serial entrepreneurship in the US versus in other parts of the world, like, you know, because there isn't as much money or VC, or it's like a much different culture, especially for like the former USSR, you know, they want to build a thing to solve a problem, right? And you see that
That's a good way to put it.
In the developing world as well, which I think is absolutely incredible. Like I feel like I'm constantly seeing stories on World Economic Forum or the World Bank about a 12-year-old who like found a way to help their blind mother like navigate through the market using AI or technology. So it's just different in that, you know, like why we want to use AI and how we plan to integrate it into our everyday lives. You know, in America, and this is something that we do in schools as well, is we really celebrate failure that isn't shared in other cultures. So, you know, if you don't...
Definitely not your Turkish side.
No. Failure
was not celebrated at my household.
Exactly. But in America, you know, I remember I was at this VC firm, or this startup incubator in Atlanta, and they said before they gave people money, the first thing that they asked them was, how many times have you failed?
Oh, I love that.
Right, which is not something that I've ever heard of before or ever thought of, but it's really interesting that, you know, people want to know all the things that you've tried and it didn't work out. And, you know, it's a very common interview question in America as well. Tell me about a time you failed, because people want to know the lessons that you learned from it and what you're going to do differently next time.
It's even a very common question in venture capital world where most of the time they would prefer investing in a second time founder
Mm-hmm.
than a first time founder, because like your failure is not a bad thing. You tried, you failed, and you're trying it again. That shows a much bigger persistence and vision. And
Exactly, because it's not necessarily like a get rich quick situation. People really really want to know, like, what did you learn about failure or success, about like the product, whether it's what the market demanded, or like, tell me about the last time you burned an eggplant.
yeah,
Mine's right now.
so that's very interesting. So you're seeing what about Europe?
Europe is very interesting because, if you look at the history of the European Union, it was completely divided until 1989, right? I was born after 1989, not by much, but it's interesting to see that, this idea of like capitalism and entrepreneurship and like owning your own business is only from the most recent generation.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a huge difference that I kind of like to tell people about. When people ask me the difference between the EU and the US, I tell them that this idea of owning your own business and building a thing, and like marketing and advertising, it's all very new to a lot of Europe. But then, there's France, and there's like Amsterdam, the Netherlands, there's Germany, who's going all in, and they're very diverse environments, and they're trying to build things, and there's been a lot of success there, like HelloFresh, Babbel, like they're doing things that no one else is really doing. They're not building LLMs, but they have like the home delivery system. They're trying to teach you how to like speak a new language, which is not something people in America really prioritize. I think
I never thought about it that way. You're very right. So it's much more practical and the other side of the Atlantic.
And I've spoken to a lot of founders in Europe that are now building things, like entrepreneurs in the US. And it's my favorite thing to me, because then I get to ask them, what do you think of like this idea of innovation versus regulation? And one thing that they say is about failure being celebrated, and like this idea of mentorship and coaching, which is less prevalent in the EU or Europe generally. And then the other thing that they tell me is, the amount of money that's here. But then another thing that they tell me is that there's so much less pressure, because when you have a business in Europe, and this is what I've been told, you're looking for investors, they want to know, how long until I get my money back.
How small do you want these audience
Whatever
to be?
you want. This is your show. I'm just supporting you.
You're the cook.
I'm supporting Cass.
I am sous chef. What's been my experience?
No, put the oil on after the pan's been heated.
Okay.
Yeah, so now I ask you. Like I said, I care more about the food than I do the technology.
The last time you were here, like, we cooked 20 meals.
We did.
It was
We
amazing.
did.
We made a turkish.
She shut up. She had no idea what she was signing up for. And I'm like, hey, since you're here first. And I'm like, I know you know how this is done, but I know that you're a founder, right? Like, tell me what your experiences is like on both sides of the Atlantic, or, what worked for you, what advice you have for other people trying to, do what you did.
Yeah. So what you said about cultural difference is very prominent. The hustle culture in the US, as toxic as it can get, also allows people to, get out of their way, think outside of the box. So I've lived in the Netherlands before, and then moved to Italy, and then came to the US. And most of my Dutch friends don't care that much about, building something. They've already lived a pretty decent life. Everything is pretty much taken care of them by the welfare system. So they don't share obviously there are exceptions, but generally speaking, people care more about going back home to their families more than building a product or a tool that'll make them rich. It's kind of my experience too. Like, people in the Netherlands thought I was crazy because I was working 3 jobs at the same time. And can I start?
Yeah.
And, and when I moved to the US, I found so many inspiring people who are literally starting things from the dust, from nothing, and having this vision. So I understand why America is America. Like, the more time I spend here, the more time I meet with founders, I understand why America dominates the innovation world and why the rest of the world kind of follows through. But what you said is interesting. I never put it that way. Because people are lazier, they probably look for like actual solutions. And I want to steer the conversation towards how you think from the end user perspective. From the founder's perspective, it's a different story. But from the end user perspective, how do you think AI is impacting American citizens versus European citizens? We're all going through like turbulent times. Like, as somebody who studied international relations, political science,
just like you,
just like I did. We went to the same school.
We did.
Shout out to Bologna, all the sites Bolognese here.
It's interesting because I want to touch on something that you said earlier about the social safety net. And, in Europe, they have much stronger social safety systems. So it's one of those things where no one, I feel like in my space, at least, people have not been talking about AI replacing them, right? They talk about the benefits, but even if AI did replace them, then, I remember when I was living in Berlin, it was the craziest time for me because people would be like, hey, try and get your company to fire you so you can be unemployed for the summer. Right?
That is sad.
That's different. It's a different culture. It's a cultural experience, which is what I got to experience when I was studying abroad.
Yeah.
But in the US, like, people are very, very, we have much weaker, like, communities, and, like, we don't have free healthcare. So people, if AI replaces you, you don't know if you're going to be able to get your diabetes medication. So it's a much scarier here, but I find that everyone's talking about integrating AI or using AI, but they're not talking as much about like AI literacy, right? In some levels, they're talking about learning, but I feel like the way that my dad talks about it, bless his heart, my dad's a boomer. He's just like, oh, I remember I told him, I'm like, hey, I'm going to get the new iPhone. And this was a year ago. And he goes, oh, are you going to wait until they put the AI in it? And so people love talking about AI. And then my response to him was, Dad, what do you think Siri is?
Yeah. Which AI?
Yani,
I don't know how the internet works. Like, that's my other thing. I don't think as an end user, you have to know how to use it. But what goes behind the scenes, do you know how the internet works?
Undersea cables.
Those are
somehow, like, the internet, like, there are a bunch of big cables underneath the water and the deep, deep ocean. And that somehow gives us internet.
Exactly. So all this time.
Sarımsak. You're going to want to put garlic in that soon.
Where is our sarımsak?
I think it was over here. Let's not get distracted from the more important issues.
Which is food.
Exactly. AI can't kill us if we, if we're starving.
No, you're right. So, but, nobody knows how, like, we don't have to know how the HTTPS protocol works or what goes behind the scenes. That's my issue with the emerging technologies. Same with the blockchain space. When I was interviewing a lot of founders, they would try to explain to me the difference between layer 1s and layer 2s, and I'm like, nobody cares. Like, tell me how an end user will use it. And I think going back to the discussion around AI literacy, coming up with use cases and play the things that can actually make a difference in your day-to-day life or your job is so much more important than learning what goes under the hood, in my opinion.
Well, on this topic as well, and this is something that I'm very excited about because it's something I became exposed to recently, agentic AI. The first time I was ever having a conversation about it, I was kind of worried. My mind automatically goes to RoboCop, killer robots, the Terminator, what have you. But I saw a demo helping someone make a purchase off the internet, like actually actively book travel reservations. And I got so excited because I'm just like, oh, this is like the kind of work an administrative assistant can do. And as someone who's years away from being important enough to have their own administrative assistant, I'm like, maybe this will help me do my admin work better, because I'm terrible at doing my own admin work.
I hate admin work too. I think we all do.
Exactly. But, you talk about it replacing entry-level jobs, and, that can definitely happen. But the reality is, people like you and me who are aware of the technology, who are following the technology, we can also massively increase our productivity by figuring out how to make this technology do what we want.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I'm already using it quite a lot in my day-to-day life, to be honest. I probably use it more in my personal life than work at this point.
Really?
Because at work, we're bounded to use Copilot. And we can't, because our data is confidential, we can't really put things out in the wild.
Yeah.
So, and Copilot has its own strengths and weaknesses, and we can come back to that and the differences between whether you like Claude more, GPT-5 more, because they all have personality.
Yeah.
But I use Claude a lot when it comes to writing and editing. I think I respect Anthropic in the way that they envision the future.
Yeah.
And I use ChatGPT for preparing my garden. Honestly, it's been like I've been using it a lot to ask where to plant, when to plant. I would like turn on my camera and show it the landscape and be like, okay, which plants go with which, because I'm a beginner, right? I've been gardening for the last 2 years, but honestly, when I first started gardening, I thought I was going to throw the seeds and the universe was going to do its job and they were just going to thrive. I couldn't be more wrong. There is so much work that goes into it. There is, like, you need to fertilize, you need to water, you need to time things. Anyways, we can come back to that too. But anyway, I use ChatGPT's function, like the camera function, a lot, and I speak with her.
Oh, it's a her.
It's a her. I called her Nova. She has a name.
Okay.
And Nova and I chat a lot about gardening and other things too. So for my nutritional needs, for example, I've been trying to gain weight and be more intentional about what I'm eating. So I basically take a picture of what I eat and ask it to give me like how much protein that it has, how much, what do I miss. So I really have integrated AI into my day-to-day life more than the work stuff, to be honest.
Interesting. And I really like your, the application of AI in agriculture, because that's one of the things that I am most excited for is, this idea of AI for good, right? Like, it's maybe not the sexiest way that people are, like, I doubt, maybe someone in Silicon Valley is, I don't know, I'm in DC, but this idea that we are going to use AI to solve global problems, right? We're going to cure diseases. We're going to like solve the climate crisis. We're going to, use it for agriculture. So it makes me actually very happy to hear that you're using it for yourself, for good, instead of, trying to maximize like work productivity, or, do like nothing buzzy. You're genuinely making it, like using it to make your life better, which is how we should be using it.
Yeah. No, Microsoft actually, I think is ahead of the game compared to other companies there. Microsoft's AI for Good Lab comes up with use cases for things like that. And I know they have a big project in India where farmers have this WhatsApp chatbot, basically, where they can send pictures of their crops and get suggestions on what to do, what not to do, and they're trying to scale it up.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you say that, because I remember in November of 2022, we were having like a lecture session at work on technology, and we had this like big shot professor who worked at, you know, like a top 10 university, and like worked at a tech company that's still very, very big. And I asked him, I called it ChatGPT. I asked him about this idea that, you know, what if the LLMs give us information that's not accurate? Like, what do we do if that happens? And he goes, oh, well, that would never happen. And essentially what I was asking for before the term was coined was either like bias or misinformation or hallucinations even in AI. And this man is just like, that would never happen.
Sounds like a man.
Yeah, no, it was. And I'm really disappointed because once again, this was like very early in my tech policy career. But even at that point, like, you know, like the reason that I got into technology policy is in 2017, right? I heard the first tech ambassador to Silicon Valley speak in Berlin when I was an intern. And he was talking about, you know, why Denmark put a tech ambassador in California. And he goes, you know, on Facebook, this is back when it was Facebook, you know, Facebook censors nipples on statues, which we think is prude, right? Like Americans are so prude, they're so uncomfortable with nudity, they would censor nipples on a statue. And we don't agree with that. And that's why like we have some representation there to sort of understand how to develop value-based technology when you're exporting it, right? And now we're in 2025, almost 10 years later. And this is the foundation of the challenges in technology, is trying to understand, you know, Section 230, content moderation, like who has the right to say what in what forms of the internet. And it's crazy that even 10 years later, this problem is still like in the forefront of everything that we do.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's a question today about like AI generated content and where that falls and if it is protected or not. So
yeah. No, I totally hear you. It's
I'm gonna cut some tomatoes for you.
Yeah, thank you.
These?
Yeah, I brought them from my garden. They're
AI generated tomatoes.
They're a little mushy because, you know, the organic homegrown garden grown tomatoes
It's fine, we're gonna mash them up more.
Much more
sensitive
than the ones that you would buy from a grocery store.
I'm gonna give you some salsa to put in there.
Yeah, that's a very important ingredient. That's tomato paste, brought to you directly from Turkey. This is the basis of all of our food.
I was like just salsa, about to say that. This is the foundation of every Turkish dish.
100%. And onions,
tomatoes, and
garlic maybe.
I would say peppers. So when I was in the 7th grade, I was living in Ankara and I took a cooking class. And I remember we had like for our final test, all the students had to cook something, and I cooked something, and I kept asking the teacher, I'm like, am I the best? Am I the best? And she's like, no. And now Miss Osman, I'll name names. Just want to know, do you think I'm the best? I want to be so bad.
I'm sure you were the best, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. That's all I needed to hear. Okay, now we're turning the heat up.
Okay. Now I mean, I'm still not a good cook by any means, but
cooking is something that AI will, like I said, it cannot do. It brings us together in a way.
100%. I appreciate eating. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate big tables. I love bringing people together. But I think I've always avoided it because I get really pissed when someone doesn't like the food that I make.
Well, they're not allowed.
No
one's allowed to not like the food.
I spent an hour putting this together, and if you're not gonna like it, like that's hurtful.
See, I'm the opposite, where I will not even eat. I'll just sit there and stare at you and be like, so what do you think? And that is why I married the man that I did, is because he's the most expressive, loving. Like, I know if I did a good job right away. I know if I did not a good job right away.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's one of those things that's very important to me.
That's very sweet. That's more of like a direct American culture where you can be direct. In Turkish, we would sugarcoat it.
Yani.
And be like, you know, it's great, but
this is what I would do differently. So I know all about
exactly.
that after planning a wedding with my mother. I learned German, and then I worked in Germany in German, and then every time I would try and say something, someone would be like, "Oh, that's actually wrong," and I'm like, "Well, I guess we're gonna speak English now."
Live with it.
Yeah, I never tell anyone their English is wrong.
Yeah, don't accent shame people, you guys. We're trying our best here.
I know.
I have the same with Arabic. So I studied Arabic for years. And the funny thing is, Arabic is a language, like, one, it's very difficult, but two, the literal language versus the spoken language are very different than one another.
How's it looking? I'm gonna put a little bit more flour in there. That looks good.
So when I went to Beirut or to Jordan, I would try to speak Fusha, which is what they teach you at school. And people would laugh at me and be like,
"Stop it.
Why are you reading the news to us right now?
Aw.
Because nobody speaks it." And I'm like, "You guys, I'm trying. Can you please?"
So my favorite was, so I studied Russian in undergrad, and I had a teacher who told me very confidently, she goes, "Deniz, if you do not learn perfect Russian, no one will ever want to speak to you." She was from St. Petersburg. I spent a summer living in Russia. And let me tell you something about people in Sochi. They do not speak English, which is fine, because then we spoke in Russian, and I spoke very broken Russian, and they were so happy with my broken Russian because it was the only way we had to communicate.
Yeah.
And no one died.
And in the meantime, your husband speaks 3 words of Turkish and everybody falls in love with him.
He does.
You guys, por favor.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, this arrogance, we need to tone it down a little bit.
Oh my gosh. Okay, now speaking of arrogance, I don't know what I'm doing anymore, and I need to look up my next step. Okay. Our next steps are clear. Okay, so the roux is good. Now it's time to put the eggplant inside. Use my hands.
Just use your hands.
The best cooking utensils.
Exactly.
I don't have a scooper. We're short. I'm not sure we're short stuff, but all the good stuff is in our kitchen upstairs. Okay.
This is all you need. You don't need that much. We have hands for a reason.
We do. I do love a cooking utensil, though. Okay, so now we're stirring that up. Now, normally, we would have a special Turkish cheese, but we're not in Turkey right now, so we don't have access to
have
this
yogurt,
cheese.
as usual.
We do, so we're gonna put a dollop of yogurt in there.
Okay.
Do we need to
I hope it's, I didn't taste it, but I made this last night.
I don't know what it's called. My mom always uses old yogurt to make
the previous yogurt. Well, you have to have a start. Whoever came up with that first idea is a genius.
Genius, mad scientist, something. All right, so we are stirring, and we are close to the end here.
Perfect.
So we want to give that a good stir.
Perfect.
I'm such a mess too when I cook.
Oh. My last question to you about AI policy is, so one thing that I find very difficult is to keep up with all the news, what's coming up, like you were saying that Anthropic was a big week for AI this week. There's a lot that's going on in the US. First, how do you keep up with the news? And two, how do you think regulators are keeping up with the news, or with the technology evolving at this level?
So unfortunately, I live in a space where I can't avoid the news. So whether I want to or not, people are telling me what's happening But honestly, I love LinkedIn. Just like following people, like seeing what other people are doing, what they're posting, because, you know, everyone who wants to be a thought leader, like will repost the same thing like 27 times, which is great because that's how you find out about it. How I think regulators are coming out with it, I mean, it depends on where the regulators are. I think, you know, in DC where we are, it's a lot of reaction. Like something bad happened to someone, like let's do something about it. It's not like proactive, thoughtful. And granted, regulators, they have a lot on their mind. Like they have to deal with taxes and healthcare and like, you know, a bunch of other things that aren't necessarily what we are prioritizing right now. But those would be the two things that I said, LinkedIn. And then also like when you have great friends that work in this space, like you just tell each other things because it's one of those things where I know I'm personally drawn to technology generally because of the impact that it has on humans and society. And so I feel very privileged to professionally be in a field that I care about so deeply on a personal level. Like you said, before it was popular. And I think maybe you feel the same way. Yeah. I chose to pursue technology, not only because like my personal interest, but also because, you know, like there are a lot of people that will pretend they know a lot in your life, like in life generally. Yeah. But technology, especially when you work in critical and emerging technologies, everything is changing so quickly that anyone who pretends they know everything is a liar. And it's very easy to identify and very easy to call out. And there's nothing, you know, we're all in this space together, and that's very much okay.
100%. I keep saying at work, I keep saying whoever says they're an AI expert, they're lying to you. And everybody's learning as we go. Obviously, there are certain skills that people need to know, the technical skills versus the policy people who spend their majority of their time researching these topics. But whoever sounds too confident, like nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Yeah. But I think we're done. Are you ready to plate?
Let's do it.
Okay. So right now, this is our foundation of our eggplant base. And now this goes at the bottom. You did such an incredible job stirring. Thank you so much.
Am I the best?
This is 5 stars. 5 stars. You would have kicked 7th grade Deniz's ass in a cooking competition. And this is, oh my God, it looks so good. It looks like home.
I know. It looks like home.
Which camera would you like to put this into?
This camera. Makes me so happy.
And now it's time to eat.
It's time to eat. Let's eat, you guys. Okay. Chin chin. Okay, this is our final product. We have some rice. And we thank Deniz for...
No, we thank it.
Yeah. And the best thing about Turkish is there are so many ways to express your love. So in English, there's only one word for love. Love. The word that you use for the love you have for your family, friends, significant other, pets, it's the same word. In Turkish, it's not. In Arabic, there's even more. So the word that you would use for the love for you would be sevgi. But the love, the passionate love, is a different love. So like there are so many nuances in the way that you can express yourself. And the same with sorrow, like much more emotional, I would say. Like in order to express your emotions, you have a bigger vocabulary to pick from. Is that the same?
No, it is. And I think that's another reason why I got into AI. Is just because I could see us building AI on English and losing so much nuance and so much like meaning. And just it got me fired up to just like I want a Kikuyu language model to talk to me in Kikuyu and teach me because you know otherwise the other way is just a little bit too intimidating. But like, can you imagine? Like ultimately, English was trying to generalize a lot. We buried our dead. We would say Nyakoma, like he has fallen asleep. Basically, he's gone and he's fallen asleep and he's not gonna wake up. But then when the missionaries came, they saw how we kind of considered that people who had died are just asleep and they're around, and like we don't mind them.
You have to save them.
So they're just they're just around, like we'll talk about them like they're just there. We'll name our children after them because they were just there. They're just asleep.
Yeah.
But then it was kind of paired up with Christianity, where it was like, Goma now in Kikuyu, because now it was like Kikuyu and Christians were very close together. Like they worked really well to kind of merge English and Swahili. And so what they translated Goma for in English was like a devil or a demon. So then that kind of like pushed us away from like our culture of just really being close to that like next transition of death, and like looking at it as like scary. Don't think about it, like really just the one that you should be focusing on is really just God and like this part of life, but like this part, just don't think about it too much. It was so interesting because now we stopped considering that word Goma with being asleep, with devils and like things to just be cast away. And I'm just like, that needs to stop happening. And if it happened that easily with just writing and like putting things to English and Kikuyu and like rewriting the Bible in Kikuyu and English, can you imagine what would happen with AI? It's like tenfold of like so many lost in translation stuff.
I had an eye-opening moment this summer where I was talking to a group of state legislators about like AI, and they didn't even think about other parts of the world and other languages. And I'm like, okay, great.
Of course, ChatGPT thinks you're right. Like that's an echo chamber. Like it's creating this like making people delusional. ChatGPT should be banned for mental advice.
It's too late.
So
like, people already used
interesting.
it. It's too late.
Because this is a field that I want to explore more, because essentially, so 2 years ago, I had the former CEO of Tinder on a panel who's now developing like a mental health app for teenage men, because there's such a stigma on going to therapy. It's like not as accessible because of how much it costs. And so she's like, I'm developing an LLM for young men to like use as therapy. And like you said, it's impossible. Like that's where you're going. You might as well develop like better equipped tools and stuff. And before I used to be very, very against it, and now I'm just like, people are doing it anyway.
Yeah,
might as well.
You need to hardwire the LLM to disagree with, or like challenge, not disagree, but challenge.
Hardwire the LLM, because like if you were to go to a therapy and a therapist and you're having a conversation like that, I feel like they're not trained to tell you no. They're trained to maybe like challenge your perspective. And so that's the thing now. It's like the design elements, like who is involved in the development and design, and also like what's the profit model, like
Yeah.
But
What should be said? Freaking character from Disney.
is that not?
It's not true. I asked it Nini
That's like
Simba. Nini Simba. What is Simba in Swahili? So it knows I'm a Swahili speaker.
Okay.
I did not ask it in English.
Okay.
I expect you to tell me this is an animal, one of the top 5 animals in the jungle, or like in the forest in Kenya. But hey, I even gave it context. So talk about prompt engineering. I was like, you mean in Kenya? Taka kujua nini ni Simba. Because then I was like, maybe I didn't give it enough context. It still said Simba ni character from freaking Disney, and I was like, this is so scary. You can't use this for education now.
But I think with any technology, like, you like are trying to figure out, test it out, how to use it, and then all of a sudden if it gives you an answer that you don't respond to, like your first, like just because it's AI, your first reaction isn't, oh, that's correct. Like,
but that's only if I have critical thinking. if I'm taught to only accumulate, so that's another model.
But we're not at that point yet, right?
Yeah.
Like we're still in the development and the observing stage, and like right now we're learning about hallucinations and like biases and stuff. And so it almost makes me more hopeful to hear that like AI is giving, people information that they can see immediately is not correct, because that automatically instigates like the critical thinking skills that we need to align with the AI models versus in the US
For
because
sure.
it's English-based model.
100%.
Everything people say, it's like unless it's Black George Washington, which isn't like the example the White House loves to give, like it's automatically incorrect.
Yeah, but that's only if you know that it's not correct. So I'm also thinking like, for example, if I was in like 5th grade and I was told go to the computer, it's going to help me. It's going to help you learn computer skills.
Okay.
Yeah. So 5th grade, and another thing about Kenyan schools is we're taught to respect authority. So if something tells me this is right, this is right. But now bring in AI, which is coming in as a good education tool, and you want to deploy it across the nation, across the country, but the base model is English, or it was built somewhere in San Francisco. None of it has like maybe, you know, this is like a town in Marsabit, which is one of the really remote towns in Kenya. And then, you know, this curious mind, 5th grade is like, oh, teacher just asked me to do a composition on what I did in the past holiday. What did I do? And I'm in Marsabit, you know, and then, you know, it would not give it. I feel like, to be honest, it wouldn't help that process too well if it's not curated better.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, it's good that we're catching these things now so that, you know, like you said, the design phase is seriously important. Those anthropologists, those linguists, those people that speak the language need to be in the room to be like, okay, the model has been fed enough about this space, let's deploy it.
I face the same problem at work when I'm building AI applications for somebody who's not a subject matter expert in the topic. The answer is good enough. But when somebody who knows what they're talking about in that specific subject, they're like, I mean, it's mediocre. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's mediocre at best.
They wouldn't really think twice.
So when we were growing up, we were trained on AI literacy, right? Like we were taught not to go into chat rooms because everyone there was a pedophile. We were raised with Wikipedia, knowing that the information on there was probably like not accurate and that we could use it as a primary, secondary source. I think we were definitely raised in like the golden age of like information and technology because like we were raised to be skeptical and question everything. And like I don't know that other generations have.